Hi, I'm Mark Alyn, and this is Late Night Health, the radio and video program that cares about the most important part of your life, your health. Along with me is Dr. Greg Celaya. He's a functional medicine specialist, and we're going to have an exciting talk today. I think it relates to what we started to talk about last week. Dr. Celaya, what are we going to talk about today?
Hey, Mark, so the last time we spoke about sugar and what it does to your body. And today, because I've had so many requests, we're going to talk about sweeteners.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the artificial, with so-called artificial sweeteners and some natural ones?
We're not going to get into much to the artificial because the artificial are a problem. You want to stay away from them. We'll just leave it at that.
The yellow, the blue, and the pink.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I won't eat those. I don't like them at all. So, and they're not healthy for you, as you just said. So if I want to sweeten my oatmeal, for example, what should I do?
Well, oatmeal may be a problem, but let's start off understanding. Do you know what, or you've heard of glycemic index, correct?
Yes, of course.
Okay, glycemic index is a little bit different than glycemic load. Glycemic index is figured when they take about 50 grams of glucose and see how it affects a subject's blood sugar, how long and how fast. And it's good for understanding certain products. If you're looking to understand what sugar is doing to your body, you want to look at glycemic load because it takes a look at also the quantity. So for example, let's say you take a carrot, and a carrot has about 90 to 91 on the glycemic index scale. But when you look at glycemic load, it can be anywhere from 1 to 3. So it's a big difference in understanding. Whereas a potato can be 100 or even 100 plus. And when you look at it as far as the quantity that you're consuming in glycemic load, you're about 36. And of course, the lower number, the better.
So what that means is the glycemic index is how long it takes the body to process that glucose?
It's looking at speed and what it does to your body for how long as well. So, but for this purposes, even though glycemic load is a better indicator, we're going to use the glycemic index because we're not necessarily talking about quantity.
Gotcha. All right. You don't think that oatmeal, I'm stammering here, is something that I should have for breakfast?
Well, it's a
carb.
It's a carb. And it really depends upon your philosophy and what you're doing. Is oatmeal terrible for you? No, it's way better than a lot of the breakfast cereals, but you have to be careful. And breakfast is kind of an important meal. So when we start looking at glycemic index of foods, for example, glucose is 100, you have table sugar, which is 65, right?
Right.
And cane sugar is 43. Maple syrup is 54. And remember we talked about fructose?
Right.
Well, fructose is 23, and fructose is a problem because it's processed by your liver, not by every cell in your body. And, you can take a look at the other video to understand a little bit more about why fructose is a problem.
Well, what I don't understand is then this is on the glycemic index. There's another scale as well.
Well, it's how glycemic load is calculating what's in your food. So the glycemic index is probably the most important thing at this point for our conversation.
I see.
But if you're trying to figure out and how carbohydrates are affecting you with your meal, you would look at glycemic load.
Gotcha. I think you and I both like a certain candy bar, and I'm going to mention the brand because almost all of them say low glycemic index, and those are kind bars. What does that mean?
Well, here again, low glycemic index, it depends upon the quantity that you're consuming. So if you're consuming a large quantity, the glycemic load may be high. You almost have to look at the glycemic load if you're looking at a product. But if you want to understand let's say, for example, high fructose corn syrup has a glycemic index of 87 versus fructose, like we just talked about, at 23. And of course, the lower, the better. So you've got to be careful when you start considering glycemic index and load because they're two different things.
You just said that fructose, though, is lower than, say, table sugar. It can't,
Right,
right?
right, it is, but it affects the liver. So what happens is your body basically processes fructose. As it processes fructose, it forms glycogen, and any excess is triglyceride. So you can have a real problem with fructose, especially if you're consuming the high fructose corn syrup or just really going crazy on fructose.
And high fructose corn syrup has been renamed, at least by the corn industry, as corn sugar to further confuse the American people.
Well, you got to sell your poison somehow.
I guess so. I guess so. And I guess Raid does the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
So
There are alternatives. I can think of a few. Can we talk about those?
yeah, I'll go over them. So,
Sure.
honey is one of those things that I get so many questions on. And honey has some advantages and some good things. But if we're looking at the glycemic index, you've got about 35 to 58, something in that range. And by the way, some of these numbers, they're calculated. Some of them are not. It depends upon who you talk to or where you get your information from. But they're in that range. And you have another one that's agave. And it's higher, depending upon what you're looking at, anywhere 15 to 30.
I like agave. In fact, to me, it has a honey-like taste.
Yeah, and each one of these sweeteners that we're talking about has its benefits, but they also have drawbacks. So you have natural cane sugar, which is sucanat, which is 43, and so and then we get into other sweeteners. Have you heard of inulin?
No, I haven't heard of that one.
Inulin's great. It's a soluble fiber that is taken from the chicory root. And it has fantastic sweetening capabilities, and it's also good for you. It's a prebiotic. It's healthy for your bones. It increases in the way your body deals with collagen. It decreases constipation, decreases appetite, decreases cardiovascular disease. So it's a great sweetener to use, and it's a new one, well, so to speak. And you'll hear more and more about inulin.
Can you spell that for us?
Inulin.
Inulin. And is that available at health food stores?
Sure, absolutely.
As a sweetener,
It's used as a sweetener. Some people are even using it as a flour. I'm not quite sure how you would do that, but it is great.
Wow.
And the next one is monk fruit. Have you heard of monk fruit before?
Yeah, I have had monk fruit and I have heard of it. Yes.
So it's about 150 to 200 times sweeter than sugar, and it has a glycemic index of 0.
Oh my! So the body can't process it.
Pretty much.
It just passes through.
Yeah.
Before we go on, where is monk fruit from? Do you know?
I think it's China.
And so it's grown in China. Can you eat monk fruit just like an apple? Do you know?
I think you can, but I don't think it tastes very good.
Yeah, probably not. I wanted to go back to honey because I like honey, but I like raw honey, unpasteurized rather than pasteurized honey. And also, you have to be careful, I understand, with honey because honey may not be honey. Have you heard that?
Well, you have to read labels, and I do agree with you. I do like the raw, unprocessed honey if you're going to do honey. You have a lot of other honeys like Manuka honey, which is great for healing as well.
Yes.
But you've got to be careful, and you just have to make sure that you don't overdo any of these sugars because increasing blood sugar increases insulin, and both increase inflammation in the body.
Got it. What about, so are we programmed to like sweet for some reason?
Oh, absolutely, because it's a quick form of a carbohydrate, right? Your body's whole goal is to get nutrition as fast as possible, and carbohydrates do that, number one, and sugar is even simpler. So, yeah, your body loves it.
And so most carbs are broken down into some form of sugar, glucose.
Sure, exactly.
Right, got it. And I just want to point out that I'm not a doctor or a healthcare professional. I'm interested in all this stuff. Are there other newer sweeteners that are healthy for you?
Yeah, there's a couple other groups, and one we've talked about quite a bit. It's stevia. And it's about 200 to 300 times sweeter than sugar, and it does 0 on the glycemic index. And it's great, and there's different brands, and the different brands can give you different aftertastes. And by the way, all these different natural replacement sweeteners can have different tastes. And like I mentioned, they can have goods and bads. But stevia
Right.
is great, and it is so beneficial for so many people. And the side effects are minimal because you're not really consuming that much. It's so much sweeter than sugar that you're not using much of it, and therefore you don't end up with some of the problems.
And when something has a 0 glycemic index, and I ask this, doggies are always welcome here on this program.
You know, I ask everybody to watch the
Yeah.
dog, and it just, you go.
Any babies that are going to cry? Because that's the next thing. People
Yeah,
love babies and dog.
hopefully not. If so, I'm in trouble.
Got it. When it's a 0 glycemic index, how does the body handle it, or doesn't it? Does it just? I think I said it just passes through. There is an oil that was marketed a number of years ago that was that didn't affect the body, other than it gave severe stomach cramps and diarrhea. All right.
Right. And that brings us to the next subject. So we're looking at sugar alcohols, which you have to understand they're really neither a sugar nor an alcohol. They're a carbohydrate. And so you have many different sugar alcohols. Maltitol is one of them. It's 75 to 90% that sweet of sugar. And it's about 35 on the glycemic index. But maltitol can really cause IBS. It can cause digestive issues. And so what happens is when we start looking at the sugar alcohols, some are partially digested in the small intestines, but most of them are moved to the large intestines where they can ferment and cause gas and other types of discomfort.
Got it. And like the fat that was developed a number of years ago, and my recollection is it was a natural, all natural fat. The body just didn't know how to recognize it, so it passed it through. Is that what's happening with these 0 and low glycemic sweeteners?
Partially, the sugar alcohols do have caloric values, so they're anywhere from 0.2 to 2.7 calories per gram. And so, but my favorite, for example, is xylitol, and it's 13 on the glycemic index, and it's 100% sweet as sugar, and it's great. But like I mentioned, all these sugar alcohols, you have to be careful. You have sorbitol, you have erythritol. Erythritol is great. It's the up and coming one. But you have to be careful because if you overdo any of these, you may end up with digestive issues. And I might have a digestive issue and you may have none from any of these. So it's hard to say. You have to try them all to see.
And I think that's with any supplement, any food, I like spicy foods and you may not. And spicy foods may make you break out and sweat, and it doesn't do that to me. So everything is individual, is it not?
Oh yeah, and the sugar alcohols, I mean, you're seeing them in chewing gums and mints and stuff because they're saying that they help reduce dental decay. So that's a great side effect of them. You have to be careful how much you take and what type. I see patients with chewing gum issues because they have a sugar alcohol and it upsets their stomach. So you have to make sure to look at which sugar alcohols are in there and understand your symptomology and maybe try other ones because they're great sweeteners.
Are there others that you can talk about?
These are the main ones that are really there at this point in time. But you have to understand too, you may want to combine these sugars to minimize some of these side effects. So
yeah. I just had a thought, and I'm sorry to interrupt. Your cookies, your gluten-free cookies, they don't have sugar in them, do they?
No. That's funny that you bring it up because I was just going to say, so we have brown rice syrup, we have sucanat, stevia, xylitol, coconut nectar. And so we're using all these different sweeteners to minimize any effect that you're going to feel from any particular one in general, and also to really make the glycemic load low. So some of them might be higher. For example, some of the brown rice syrup may have a higher glycemic index, but the rest of the product itself is going to bring down the glycemic load. Not to mention, the cookie itself, the fiber, the proteins, the fats help do that also.
And we have to talk about taste. Some of these have aftertastes that some people find objectionable, others don't notice it. And I know that people who drink soda pop with artificial, diet soda pop, many of them find that drinking a regular soda is too sweet because they're used to one of the artificial sweeteners or even some of the natural ones.
Yeah, you remember the old days of drinking the diet sodas and the tab and all the rest of that stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Remember the nasty flavor that was
Ugh.
afterwards?
Oh, it's terrible.
So, when you look at that and you look at the benefits of the natural sweeteners, and like you mentioned, I know you don't like stevia, but it's really not that bad for most people. And if you change brands, you may notice no aftertaste at all.
Well, I know that there's a new one that claims to have no aftertaste. It's a new variety of stevia.
Yeah, and it really depends how you process it. You're not seeing the leaves of stevia usually in these sweeteners. You can buy stevia leaves, but the aftertaste is even greater with those.
Oh, is it? I've never tried that. I've never tried that. How does taste affect what we eat? I mean, we seem to be preconditioned, most of us, to like sweet. We talked about that because it's instant energy, right?
It's great. I mean, who doesn't like sweet? I think the big problem is we have to try to minimize sweet and try to use natural substitutes that don't cause a problem with blood sugar and create a problem with insulin and then create a problem with inflammation. And so, one of the big problems that I have is when I see a patient, the first thing I have to fix is sugar. If I don't fix sugar, I'm wasting my time trying to fix anything else.
Got it. I was in your office the other day and you had a tin of chocolate. And I think you told me that you have a bite of chocolate almost every day.
Almost. And
Oh,
it's, you start looking at the cacao levels and it's got to be 60 or higher to really get the benefit. Otherwise, you're just eating candy.
and when you're eating that, are those sweetened with some of the natural sugars?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Got it. Well, I'm going to try it next time in your office, which I think will be tomorrow, the day after we record this.
Well, that's if there's any left.
And that's if there's any left. Dr. Celaya, thanks for joining us. If you would like to have a one-on-one free 15-minute consultation with Dr. Celaya, go to drcelaya.com, DRCELAYA. That's DRCELAYA.com. And there's all kinds of free information. There are videos and audios on there. Visit drcelaya.com and also visit us at latenighthealth.com, latenighthealth.com. Dr. Celaya, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, Mark, in addition to this video, in the future, I'm going to do another video that we look at the different brands of products so you can actually look and see what we're using. And we've got a lot of them to go over.
Oh, great. I can't wait for those. Well, that wraps up this edition of Late Night Health. Have a great week. Have a nice week. And most importantly, have a healthy week. We'll see you next time.